Coming up today, President Park Geun-hye defends the decision to deploy a controversial U.S. missile defense system to South Korea. She presses her political opponents to provide an alternative solution to protect citizens from North Korea. South Korea's foreign minister is gearing up to jet off to Laos for an ASEAN summit. North Korea and South China Sea tensions are likely to dominate the debates. First, the European Central Bank keeps all of its interest rates unchanged. It says it will be in a better position to reassess its options once the impact of Brexit becomes more apparent. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello to our viewers around the world. It's 6 a.m. on Friday, July 22nd here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Broom. Our top story this morning, President Park Geun-hye has reiterated her call for national unity on countering North Korea's nuclear threats and once again urged cooperation on deploying the U.S. missile defense system known as THAAD to the southern part of South Korea. Our Song Ji-son starts us off.
Chairing the National Security Council meeting for the second consecutive week, President Park Geun-hye called for national unity on countering North Korea's nuclear threats.
나라와 국민을 지키는 것은 대통령과 정부만이 하는 것이 아닙니다. 모든 정치권과 국민들께서 나라를 지키고 우리 가정과 아이들을 지켜내기 위해서 힘을 모아 주셔야 합니다. 최근 북한의 핵실험과 관련한 심상치 않은 움직임도 관찰이 되고 있습니다.
The president noted that the North could go forward with a nuclear test at any time now and is reportedly increasing its military capabilities by the border for additional provocations. Pyongyang launched 3 ballistic missiles on Tuesday in an apparent protest against Seoul and Washington's decision to deploy the U.S. missile defense system THAAD to the peninsula. Opposition is strong within the South as well, with some calling for a reversal of the decision. Urging the opposing side not to politicize the issue, President Park asked whether they could propose an alternative.
사드 배치 외에 북한의 미사일 공격으로부터 우리 국민을 보호할 수 있는 방법이 있다면 부디 제시해 주셨으면 합니다.
President Park called for cooperation from the residents in the area where the THAAD battery will be deployed and said division in the South is exactly what the North wants. She vowed to protect the nation and stand strong under any circumstances in order to maintain stability in the country. Song Ji-son, Arirang News.
Now, staying with THAAD, and residents from the southern county where that system will be deployed gathered in downtown Seoul on Thursday to protest against the government's decision to station THAAD in their area. Kim Myo-gyun tells us more.
Residents of Seongju County staged a protest in downtown Seoul Thursday afternoon, demanding that the government retract its decision to deploy the Terminal High Altitude Area Defense System, or THAAD, to their town. Many of the protesters said they opposed the move because the decision was made without taking into account public opinion.
The procedure for the government making this unilateral decision without negotiating with Seongju residents is completely wrong. We gathered here to directly express our anger.
Protesters pinned blue badges and ribbons and held up Korean national flags and anti-THAAD banners. Although more than 3,700 police officers had been dispatched in case of violent incidents, the roughly 2-hour-long protest ended relatively peacefully. After the rally, the organizers headed to the National Assembly and met with the ruling Saenuri Party floor leader to submit an official letter of protest. Earlier in the day, President Park Geun-hye said that the move to deploy the THAAD system was inevitable because of the growing threats from North Korea. Seoul's defense ministry has said it aims to have THAAD operational by the end of 2017. Kim Myo-gyun, Arirang News.
Now, in other news, South Korea's top diplomat flies to Laos this week to attend the ASEAN Regional Forum. He's set to meet one-on-one with several of his counterparts. And while nothing has been scheduled yet, he could meet North Korea's foreign minister as well. Kwon So-ah reports.
A full-packed schedule is in store for South Korea's top diplomat upon arriving in Vientiane, the capital of Laos, this weekend. Seoul's foreign ministry announced Thursday that Foreign Minister Yoon Byung-se will not only attend 5 ASEAN meetings, but also aim to have more than a dozen meetings on the sidelines.
Currently, talks with 13 countries are being planned. It's expected to be a much tighter schedule than in previous years.
The ministry spokesperson did not specify which counterparts Yoon is expected to meet, but he explained that many countries that have undergone governmental changes or have sworn in new foreign affairs ministers, including Myanmar, are included. Attention is especially focused on whether Minister Yoon could hold talks with his North Korean counterpart Lee Yong-ho, who is expected to be at the ARF, one of the rare international events the North regularly takes part in. When asked about a possible one-on-one with the North, South Korea's foreign ministry said no such meeting has been decided on. On Lee's actual presence at the event, officials speaking on condition of anonymity say the North Korean delegation has reserved a hotel near the venue. The South China Sea dispute, the deployment of the U.S. missile defense system THAAD to South Korea, and North Korea's missile and nuclear provocations are predicted to top the agenda at the gathering. Officials say it may be a challenge to issue a joint statement that sends a strong message on North Korea, as the host country Laos has close ties to the communist regime. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
President Park Geun-hye visited the Pangyo Creative Economy Valley south of Seoul to check out her innovation drive at the valley's startup campus. Speaking with startup entrepreneurs, President Park encouraged them to aim for overseas markets with creative ideas and innovative products.
창조 경제 생태계 구축도 앞으로 더욱 완벽하게 현장의 목소리를 더욱 담아내서 여러분들이 하루빨리 글로벌 기업이 돼서 세계 시장을 선점할 수 있도록 그렇게 더 박차를 다하도록 하겠습니다. 그리고 기술을 개발하려면은 역시 연구 개발이 중요한데 마음 놓고 연구 개발에 전념할 수 있도록 그런 부분에 있어서도 우리가 규제라든가 뭐 여러 가지 어려운 걸림돌이 있으면 제거하도록 노력을 하고.
The nation's 17 innovation centres have so far supported over 1,000 startups and attracted $240 million in investment. This is her 5th field visit in just a month, aimed at gauging the economic sentiment and hearing directly from the public. Korea's Finance Minister Yoo Il-ho says the new tax code will be revised to encourage firms to hire more workers despite the government's ongoing corporate restructuring drive. Shin Se-min with the details.
The new tax code will be more employment-friendly, according to Finance Minister Yoo Il-ho. During a meeting with the ruling Saenuri Party and the government on Thursday, Yoo said the revisions to taxes set to take effect starting next year will focus on revitalizing the country's economy as well as making more jobs. Yoo said the revised tax rule will help minimize the fallout from the government's ongoing corporate restructuring drive and help lower the burden on workers at small and mid-sized firms. Despite Britain's exit from the European Union sparking uncertainties at home and abroad, the top economic policymaker added that the revised tax code will help stimulate local economy and stabilize the people's livelihoods. While pressing for a swift parliamentary handling of the issue, the Finance Ministry said the revised tax code will soon be submitted to the National Assembly. In addition to the tax law revision, the minister also rolled out his vision on job creation through the government's supplementary budget during a separate meeting with the financial policy advisors. He projected that the extra government fund will help generate at least 60,000 more jobs. Adding that the supplementary budget will focus on restructuring and mainly assisting employment, Yu said the money will also support specific social groups, including senior citizens, to find jobs. He also said the government will mobilize all means to push its plan of putting more than $17 billion to resuscitate the local economy in the latter half of the year, even if that means expanding policy loans. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
The European Central Bank has reaffirmed its will on its quantitative easing programme and has decided to keep interest rates unchanged and its stimulus measures unchanged also. ECB President Mario Draghi said it was too early to assess the impact of Britain's vote to leave the European Union on the Eurozone's fragile economic recovery. He took note that the ECB's stimulus measures and the central bank's pledges to provide liquidity had helped keep market stress contained. In particular, he said the ECB's Governing Council will continue to monitor market developments closely and that, if warranted, would use all the instruments available within its mandate, pointing to the prevailing uncertainties at the moment. Staying in Europe, and French President François Hollande says Brexit negotiations should begin as soon as possible, even though he respects the UK's decision to leave the European Union. He made the remarks in Paris on Thursday after meeting Britain's new Prime Minister Theresa May. Mrs May said she wanted to maximise opportunities for the UK and the EU. She also stressed that France and Britain would continue to collaborate on issues like counter-terrorism and emphasised the UK will continue to meet its NATO obligations. Mr Hollande also thanked Prime Minister May for her message of solidarity in the wake of the truck terror attack in Nice. Brazilian police have arrested 10 alleged suspects and are on the search for 2 others who were planning terrorist attacks during next month's Rio Olympics. Brazil's Justice Minister said Thursday that the group was inspired by ISIS and mostly organised online. He said that no specific targets were mentioned and they are still investigating the suspects' computers and cell phones to learn more about the possible plans. He also said the suspects are all Brazilian nationals and the group was not an organised cell. In fact, he called it absolutely amateur with no preparation. The group essentially exchanged messages via SMS saying things like, "Let's start training in martial arts, let's start learning how to shoot." He noted the group tried to buy a gun online, which no organised cell would do, with the Rio Olympics now just 15 days away. As you can see, the city is boosting its surveillance measures. The Bucheon International Fantastic Film Festival is now up and running. It's in its 20th year and it boasts its biggest lineup ever, from a locally produced zombie animation feature to a documentary on the late musician David Bowie. Our EG1 was in town for the opening of the hotly anticipated cinematic event.
Beautiful actresses and suit-up actors walk down the red carpet against cameras, flashing here and there as numerous media outlets try to get that one perfect shot of these stars. Under these glamorous scenes, the 20th Bucheon International Fantastic Film Festival, or BFFN, kicked off on Thursday. The annual festival focuses on horror, thriller, mystery, and fantasy films from around the world. And this year, a record total of 320 movies from 49 countries will be showed throughout the course of 11 days. Among them is the opening film Captain Fantastic, directed by Matt Ross. The movie explores parenting and family, and it is about a man who has nurtured his 6 children in an isolated environment without technology to demonstrate the beauty of coexistence with nature. The award-winning film has been highly praised for striking a chord in the audience with elements of humor and drama, winning a directing prize at this year's Cannes Film Festival. This year's BFFN will feature for the first time in its history 52 world premieres, 72 Asian premieres, and 88 Korean premieres in 7 locations around the city. And at the closing ceremony, the Asian premiere of the zombie horror animation film Seoul Station by director Yeon Sang-ho will be under the spotlight. A prequel to the director's latest movie, Train to Busan, the animation film underscores the festival as a staple platform for Korean cinema.
The festival will also feature award ceremonies and industry gatherings that aim to strengthen networking among participants and recognize artists for their works. 이지원, Arirang News.
Well, that's all we have for now on this Friday morning here in Seoul. I'm Mark Broom. Thank you as always for tuning in. We'll be back throughout the day with more newscasts. Our next bulletin coming up at 10 a.m. Korea time. So until then, goodbye.